Today, we're going to be going over all of the books I read in 2025 and doing a yes, no, maybe for each one. Up first, we have Jade City by Fonda Lee, which is a yes. This is a fantasy world that is based on a jade magic system with family drama and rival clans. And then up next, we have Visitations by Corey Ebert, which is another yes. This is a graphic novel that was inspired by the author's own true story of growing up with a paranoid mother who is being less than honest about their family. And then I read Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear by Shannon McGuire. This is also a yes. This is the 10th book in the Wayward Children series, and this installment follows our main character into a portal fantasy filled with water, turtles, and heartbreak. And then I read The Wood at Midwinter by Susanna Clark. This one I'm going to give a maybe to just because the story was forgettable, but Susanna Clark's writing is really beautiful, and this is also a book that you can read in one sitting in a cold winter's night. And then I read Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is also going to get a maybe for me. This is the third book in the series that starts with Fourth Wing. So if you didn't enjoy Fourth Wing, then obviously not. But I think I had the right expectations going into this, and I found it to be enjoyable for what it was. And then I read Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and this one is also going to be a maybe. Don't come for me. I know that the series does get better, but for me, this first one was quite derivative of the Hunger Games era, but I do plan to continue reading on with the rest of the Red Rising series. And then next I read A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall, and this one is going to be a yes. If you need a wintry thriller, this one follows our main character as she goes to stay with her boyfriend's family in a secluded, snowy area, and she comes across a photograph of herself when she was young. And then I read Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson, and this one is going to be a yes as well. Bloom is a sapphic body horror novella that will surprise you. Enjoy. And then I read The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which is a big yes. This is the first book of the Broken Earth trilogy, and it is a mix of post-apocalyptic science fiction and fantasy magic, and I absolutely loved it. And then I read Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. This one is another yes. This is a YA horror with forest monsters and secrets, and I really enjoyed it. And then I read Infinity Gate by M.R. Carey, and this one is absolutely a yes. This is a multiverse novel that features great characters and AI fighting the system. And then I read Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, and I give this one a yes as well. This is the latest prequel in the Hunger Games series, and this one is Haymitch's story, which was basically a love letter to the first Hunger Games. And next up, I read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood, which is also a yes. I do believe that this is the first Ali Hazelwood that I read. This is a STEM romance and enemies to lovers, and I loved it. And then I read The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. This is a yes. This is a nautical fantasy where the ships in this world are built from the bones of sea dragons, and we are following a crew that is made up entirely of prisoners. And then we have Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I'm so sorry, but no. I love the writing and the setting, but I did not care for the characters or the plot here. And then up next, I read A Sea of Unspoken Things by Adrienne Young. And for this one, I'm going to go with maybe. It was a very straightforward mystery, but it didn't really offer anything new. And then I read The Lamb by Lucy Rose, and this one is going to be another maybe. It was really gross and really heartbreaking, but I could not look away. And then I read This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Matar and Max Gladstone. This one is going to be a yes. This follows two agents that are on opposite sides of the Time War, and they begin writing letters to one another. And then I read Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. And as much as this pains me, it's going to be a no. This book annoyed me more than it entertained me. Up next, I read The Story of a New Name by Elena Ferrante. And this one is a yes. This is the second book in the Neapolitan Quartet, which follows two women throughout the course of their lives. And I love these two women and these books so much. And then up next, I read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. And this one is a maybe. This follows a girl who sacrificed herself to the sea god to save her brother's girlfriend and her village. And this was a nice story. And then up next, I read Gods of the Weirdwood and Warlords of Weirdwood by R.J. Barker. And these two books are also going to get a maybe from me. I love R.J. Barker's writing, but it's not going to be for everyone. You have to work hard at it and put the pieces together. This is a dark fantasy world that is full of deities and danger. And then up next, I read Shroud by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and this is absolutely a yes. I think this is my favorite Adrian Tchaikovsky. In this, our two main characters crash land on the moon, and they have to navigate this completely dark planet and the aliens that inhabit it there. And then up next, I read Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. And this one is going to get a maybe from me. This follows Carl and his cat, Princess Donut, as they are forced into an intergalactic game show. While it is a very fun read, I'm not sure that it's going to be for everyone. And then up next, I read Children of Ruin by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And this one is going to be another maybe. If you read and loved Children of Time, then yes, I do think it's worth it to read Children of Ruin. These books feature sentient beings on other planets. And then I read The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, and this one is a yes. This follows a librarian who flees her burning village and sets up in a new location. She sets up a new life and a new magic shop. And then up next, I read The Unworthy by Augustina Bastarrica, and for this one, it is going to be a no. The Unworthy was really hard to understand, and it's so very bleak. I just did not enjoy this one. And then I read With a Vengeance by Riley Sager, and this is also going to be a no. This is an Agatha Christie style train mystery, and I was just bored and did not care. And then up next, I read Once Was Willem by M.R. Carey, and this is 100% yes. I think this is probably my favorite book of the year, and this is a fantasy horror that follows our main character who once was Willem, and now he is trying to find out where he fits in this world. And then up next, I read Made for Each Other by Lynn Painter, and this one is a maybe. It is a cute rom-com, but there also isn't anything particular that stands out about this one. And then I read Not in Love by Allie Hazelwood, and this one is a yes. This one did not read like a typical fantasy, and I loved it. And then I read Problematic Summer Romance by Allie Hazelwood, and unfortunately, this one was a no. It is the sequel to Not in Love, but I just did not enjoy this one. And then I read The Ghost Rider by Julie Clark, and this one is a yes. This is a decent thriller that follows a woman whose father is a horror author, and she has been asked to ghostwrite his final novel. And then up next, I read Catabasis by R.F. Kuang, and I am on team yes when it comes to Catabasis. I think this was a very nuanced look at women in academia. This is a dark fantasy academia novel, and I know that some people found this boring, but so is Academia. And then I read Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston, and this one is a no. I thought this one could have been so much more, and I had such a hard time suspending my belief for this one. And then I read The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, and this one is a yes. I loved The Raven Scholar. I never knew what to expect, and the fantasy elements were so imaginative. I loved it. And then I read The Ghost Woods by C.J. Cook. And for this one, I say, yeah, maybe. This one features a crumbling manor in the middle of the woods where unwed mothers go to give birth. This turned into a great fungal horror, but also check the trigger warnings for this one. And then up next, I read Bride by Allie Hazelwood, and I'm going to go with a no. This one follows a vampire and a werewolf, and I have already forgot what happened. And then I read Soul Searching by Lila Sage, and this one is a yes. This is a romance with ghosts and good characters. And then I read King Sorrow by Joe Hill. And unfortunately, this one is a no. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I was pulled consistently out of the story the entire way through. And then I read If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia, and this one is a yes. If you haven't read this one yet, the holidays are the perfect time to pick this one up. She is temporarily running her family's inn, and he is the baker that lives next door. I'm so sorry. I just realized that this pile of books has been shifting my camera over. The next book that I read is Fake Skating by Lynn Painter. This one is also a yes. He is a hockey player and she is helping him by pretending to be his girlfriend, but we all know where that leads. And then I read back to back The Will of the Many and The Strength of the Few. These are both absolute yeses from me. This series follows an orphan boy who is hiding a secret past, and he has been adopted into a new family and a new world where he has to discover a lot of secrets. And then up next, I read Play Nice by Rachel Harrison, and this one is also a yes. I think this is my favorite Rachel Harrison so far, and this one follows a woman who has to go back to her possibly haunted house that she grew up in, and I loved how creepy this one was. And then I read The River Has Roots by Amal El-Matar, and oh my gosh, yes. If you are able to listen to the audiobook, I highly recommend that. This is about the love of sisters, and it is so beautiful. And The River Has Roots is also the last book that I have read so far in 2025. So I'm going to stop the yes, no, maybes here. And if you have read any of these, or if you are looking forward to reading any of these, let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will talk to you soon.